The following is a taped interview with Jack Butcher at radio station WITZ Jasper on Sunday, December 18, 1983.
Let's switch to Bob Simmers and Fast Breaks.
Keevin Biggs of the Lagodi Lions is our guest for the next 45 minutes. And we're going to be talking about the Lion basketball program specifically here, and also Southern Indiana basketball in general. Let's get into the scores from this past weekend. On Friday night, it was Bar Reeve defeating Springs Valley 48-42. Bedford North Lawrence over Madison in triple overtime, 41-39. Bloomington South defeated Rushville 77-63. Other scores was Clarksville 52, Lanesville 45. Corydon defeated Scottsburg 77-47. Floyd Central over Columbus East 79-72. Forest Park defeated Du Bois 63-61. Certainly a big win there for the Forest Park Rangers. Also on Friday night, it was Heritage Hills 66, Castle 52. Jasper defeated Boonville 73-55. It was Jeffersonville over Silver Creek 65-54. And Jack Butcher's ball club picked up its 8th win Friday night, winning a blue chip conference game over South Knox 66-44. The Lions had things pretty well their own way there, Jack.
Well, Bob, South Knox has a real fine basketball team. The record isn't real impressive, but they do have some fine players that they've been playing ever since they were sophomores. Good size, excellent quickness, good shooters. And I thought our kids played exceptionally well, and as a result, we were able to come out of that game on the win side, and it was a big game for us, especially in the Blue Chip Conference. I think we're 5-0 in conference play now.
All right, and also on Friday night, it was Mitchell 63, Shoals 36. The Jug Rocks still having their troubles getting into the win column. Mount Vernon defeated South Spencer 74-66. North Posey over Evansville Mater Dei in overtime 65-61. New Albany defeated Wrights 75-54. Also in the South, on Friday night, it was Terre Haute South over Evansville Memorial 56-45. Vincennes defeated Princeton handily 62-41. LeVay over North Davies 84-61. West Washington defeated Crawford County 66-63. It was Washington Catholic 95, North Knox 49. The Washington Hatchets a winner on Friday over Pike Central 50-39. It was Wood Memorial 87 and New Harmony 57. Then last night, it was Floyd Central 73, Clarksville Providence 59. Gibson Southern won over Vincennes 45-44. Kind of a mild surprise there. Jasper squeezed by Southridge 51-46 in a game aired here on WITZ Radio. L&M defeated Shakamak 57-26. It was Madison 69, Charlestown 46. Seymour over Jennings County 60-56. Tell City defeated Heritage Hills 60-51. And Jack, I was a little bit surprised at that score. Dale Hines, he was on our show here a week or so ago, and it doesn't look like the Patriots have it all together right yet.
Well, I don't know about Tell City. I haven't seen them play, but I know that Heritage Hills has most of those kids back from last year, and they were a very fine basketball team last year. And I know that most of us in Southern Indiana is expecting them to have a real fine basketball team, and probably the second half when they get around they show up again.
they'll start to move. Terre Haute North defeated Harrison of Evansville 70-65. It was Terre Haute South rolling over Bloomington South 86-62. And Washington Catholic won another one last night over South Knox 66-55. And the Cardinals still with only one loss and playing very, very well. And of course, an opponent down the road for Jack Butcher and his ball club, and we'll be talking about that in a minute. Those are the scores from the weekend, and we'll be back to talk about the Lagodi basketball program with Jack Butcher and Keevin Biggs right after these three messages.
Gus Durner Sports has the goods for Christmas, sporting goods that is, and Cyril Birch and Dave Arvin are ready to help you out. If you like to participate in active sports, you'll find much to choose from for your Christmas list this year. Gus Durner Sports of Jasper and Evansville has just the right gift. See Durner's equipment for swingers of golf clubs, baseball bats or tennis rackets, and racket balls. Just to start you thinking, there's more. Footballs, basketballs, table tennis sets, and badminton sets. Or how about a gift certificate from Gus Durner Sports? For you high school coaches, athletic directors, and officials, Gus Durners are proud to be the biggest sports equipment supplier in Indiana and are ready to help you make your athletic program the best it can be. Give Gus Durners a call today. And remember, for an ideal gift for the sports-minded on your list, get it for them from Gus Durner Sports in Jasper and in Evansville.
I want to buy a microwave oven, but I just don't have the time to shop around and compare all the different brands.
That's easy, ma'am. Take a one-stop shopping trip to Home Outfitters where you'll see 7 of the most wanted brands of microwave.
To Bob Simmers and his guests.
All right, thank you very much, Larry, and we're indeed grateful to Jack Butcher today. We had scheduled Jack for sometime in January, but Rex May could not be here because of a family commitment today, so he and Jack are going to flip-flop their dates, and I guess it's pretty good timing. We were, of course, all waiting at the outset of the season, Jack, as I'm sure you were, with the anticipation of your team getting you your 500th coaching win, and certainly you've done that. And we had a sheet here that was sent from somebody up in your school system with the list of coaches who have attained that now. And, of course, Jim Rosensteel at Lebanon, I think he had got his 500th either this week or last week. And I think it's rather ironic that in 1975, Jim had his Lebanon Tigers at the Final Four, as you did. And he went into the season with 496 wins. You went in with 494. You both have surpassed now or attained the 500 mark. Names like Howard Sharp, Bill Stearman of Columbus, Bob Macy of Peru, the late Marion Crawley, who was at Washington, and also Lafayette Jeff. Ward Smith with 692 victories at Attica, Everett Case of Frankfurt, Tom Goldsberry of Union, Gunnar Wyman of Vincennes, and Cliff Wells did not attain the 500 mark. Cliff, of course, was at Springs Valley and had 497. Jack, this is certainly fast company, and well, we just like your thoughts on winning 500. I think you made a comment in one of the newspapers that there was probably maybe some pressure, but I think we all knew it was going to come. It was just a matter of time this season.
Well, Bob, as you indicated, it is among a rather select group of coaches, and certainly feel honored to be among that group. I've been asked many times, what's it feel like to win 500, and it's kind of difficult to express. Certainly it is an honor, and I guess, when you achieve something of that caliber or that magnitude, you simply look at it and say, well, one of these days you can sit back in the rocking chair and say, well, you didn't do too bad. So it's a pretty good feeling, and we have been very fortunate in our program over the last 27 years. We've had some outstanding basketball teams and outstanding people helping us in our program. The community has supported us extremely well, and we've been very, very fortunate, I think, with the news media throughout the state of Indiana. They've been very kind to our program as well, and we're very grateful for that.
Jack, obviously, in 27 years in a school, let's say, of Lagodi size, you're not generally, it doesn't seem conceivable that you're going to just be blessed with all kinds of talent all the time. Now, we noted that it was only in your first year, I guess, 57, that your ball clubs did not attain a 500 mark. I think you were 11 and 12 or something. But certainly, I guess the prevailing attitude there is, for the young men that play on the Lions basketball teams, is hard work and dedication to the game.
Well, Bob, many people have alluded to what you have just stated, and I guess I've thought about it a lot, and maybe, again, I've never came up with any empirical research to substantiate what I might say, but it just seems to me as though, thinking back, when I was hired by an administration that was interested in building a program, and they said, this is your program, you run it the way you want to. And I think one reason why was because Lagodi had gone through a period of time when they hadn't been particularly successful. They hadn't won a sectional in 5 or 6 years. We were fortunate enough in the second year to win some basketball games. We got the fans behind us again, and I think the fan enthusiasm was contagious to the kids in the community, and so that just sort of built from year to year. And it seems as though in recent years that each group, regardless of how much potential talent they have, are determined that they're not going to be the group of kids that let the town down or let the school down. This group of kids, for example, before the season started, wasn't expected to be, say, 8-1 at this point in the season. We only had Kelly Hunt coming back with much experience, but they've just done a tremendous job. I think in our early games they won on guts and guts alone, very little finesse and very little sound fundamental type of play. But recently they've been coming around in that respect and doing an excellent job. Our last outing, as I indicated earlier, against South Knox, I told our kids after the game, I just thought they played exceptionally good basketball. We only committed 6 errors. We ran our delay game perhaps better than we have in a couple of years. And of course, in running the delay game, you've got to execute the power move and you've got to execute the free throws. I would say we're shooting our free throws better than we have in the last couple of years, particularly during that period of time. Even in the we ended up with about 76% the other night from the free throw line as a team, and I'm very satisfied. We always shoot for 70% and as a team and never quite reach it or don't always reach it. And even in the Forest Park game, which we played Saturday night after playing Bar Reeve and winning the 500 game, I expected our kids to be down, and they didn't disappoint me in that respect. We were very flat, and yet we were able to come back with 3 men sitting on the bench in foul trouble, and they simply were able to do those things that needed to be done at a given time. Go out and steal the ball, get a key rebound, make a key bucket, and hit the free throws in the clutch. And as a friend of mine says, well, obviously you didn't play very well at Forest Park, but you won, and that's the mark of a good basketball team, is when you can win and when things aren't going well. And I just can't say enough about how well these kids have played, and particularly doing the job that needs to be done. As we pointed out to them, some of you are not going to be outstanding shooters, but if you're not an outstanding shooter and not going to score a lot, you can play some good defense, you can help run the offense, and you can contribute in other ways. And each of them has fulfilled that role very admirably, and I'm very, very proud of them.
These are intangibles, Jack, I guess, that every coach searches for, and I guess this goes back again to a successful program. You mentioned I think you were down 9 or somewhere in that vicinity in the Forest Park game. Your players absolutely found a way to win it. I recall in the regional, I think in 81, when Jasper had you seemingly out of it, 10 points, and things weren't going well, hadn't been going well, and it looked like, in observing you on the bench, you had just sort of said, well, this is probably the end of the road, and you come back and hold the Wildcats scoreless, or your players did. And this is an intangible that it's really difficult to put your finger on it.
Well, it is, and I think we've been very fortunate in that respect. Sometimes when you analyze it, one just simply looks up to the heavens and thinks, good Lord, somebody up there must like you.
They don't teach that in clinics, do they? Jack, are you, speaking of clinics, over the years, have you been in big demand on the clinic circuit? Or?
Oh, I don't know that I've been in big demand. I've spoken at a few in the state and out of state, and probably enough.
Mm-hmm.
It's about like, you've talked about the speaking and speaking engagements, and you get a little nervous, even though you do this by profession over the air, and there's a lot of pressure on you, when you go to speak at clinics also. So I've spoken for 1 or 2 every year, maybe for the last 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or 10 years.
I suppose coaches at a big school who might hear you at a clinic will say, well, gee, I can't do what Coach Butcher does because the kids in the big school, they might not put up with it.
Well, I don't know. I don't really feel that. I think we have a name of, or I think I have a name of being maybe a harsh dictator type of coach, but I really don't think that, we are any more demanding of our kids than anyone else, even if the pictures in the papers sometimes portrays that.
Do you, but we have so many coaches that come on our program, Jack, and say, man, they're always commenting if I could do what Coach Butcher does, or if, I could be successful like him, and I study him. When you started in the coaching profession back in '57 out of Memphis State, did you have a high school coach that you sort of patterned your philosophies after, or did you have your own right at the outset?
Well, I don't know.
Did you play for Costa?
Yes. Talk about philosophy. Certainly, Costa wasn't an animated coach as myself and some of the other great coaches, such as Joe Toad Ranks. Joe, I thought I was going to get Joe on, put a uniform on him the other night, so, they talk about me being animated. And
you mean he was off of the bench?
I thought they might present him with a cheerleader's uniform or something after that game.
So Costa certainly wasn't that animated. And, in retrospect, I can't remember any of the coaches being as active as, back when I played, as many of the coaches are today, both in the high school and college ranks. And maybe that's because there wasn't as much pressure put on, there wasn't much intensity in the game. But, I guess I got my ambition to coach from, in the early days, from two people, and one would be Paul Arvin, who organized a basketball team at St. John's grade school, back in the early or late 40s, I guess, when we were, myself and Bob Larkin and Richard Clemens, and some of those boys were in grade school, and we had great admiration for Paul, and still do. And so, that was the early days, and of course Costello, he was a very successful coach, and everybody admired him in Lagodi, and I suppose, that type of environment stimulated me to be interested in coaching. And of course, when I went on to Memphis State, then I had Eugene Lambert for the first couple of years, and he was a very intense, very fundamental-oriented coach. We met with a reasonable degree of success under him, and then my senior year under Bob Banana. Now, Bob was not a great fundamentalist. He did not work you hard, but he had a certain knack of getting the best out of his players. I would say that he was more of a motivator and used more psychology than any of the other coaches. So, those three people, I think, had a great deal of influence on my coaching. But, over the years, I think every coach takes what he can from the coaches that he was under, and maybe some coaches that they see play and scout, and, as you say, clinics, and of course the news media today, television. We have the greatest resource, I think, to find out information about coaching and coaching skill from all the college and pro games that are on the television. But, I always say, well, I was regarded as a floor general at Memphis State, and very cool and calm and collected out there on the floor. And I even surprised myself, really, in thinking back to the opening game against Shawswick when we were handed a pretty convincing defeat. I had a new pair of Florissant shoes on, and I remember kicking the stands a couple of times, and a new store-bought coat from Larkin's that I took off and stomped on a couple of times. So I even surprised myself with the animation, and it subsided quite a bit in recent years, but nevertheless, kids can motivate you, and kids like this we have this year that give you 100% plus. They can motivate a coach, and so I don't know. I think it has been said that players play according to the personality of the coach, and so sometimes I think it's necessary for a coach to become involved if they're going to be successful. Many times I have, tried to take it easy and sit there on the bench, and I think I've observed that we don't play as well when I do that, at least most of the time.
Jack, you mentioned when you went to Lagodi, of course, they were interested in building the system, and I think it's a pretty well-known fact that down through the Lagodi system has met with a lot of success. How much input do you have with your younger team's coaches? Do you tell them, I want this done, that done, or do you give them pretty much free rein?
Well, everything is relative, I suppose. When I started, I had the varsity, and I had the B team, and I had the freshmen, and I traveled with the 7th and 8th grade. As the years progressed, we were fortunate enough to get some additional help, both from what we might call professional people or school people, and from volunteers from the community. And so really, over the years, my assistants have taken care of a lot of the programs down through the grades, the summer program, and so really they receive or deserve more credit for the organization and the implementation of the feeder system than I do.
It's been said, you mentioned the off-season, the summer program, that basketball players are sometimes made during the off-season. Do you discuss with your younger people who will be coming back, say a sophomore or junior, and say, son, you're deficient maybe in ball handling, or you need to work on your shooting or defense, and then do you individually sort of design a program for that young man during the off-season?
We talk to them, and we would like for them to work out in the off-season, but I feel that in recent years we or they players haven't been motivated enough to go out on their own and to work out. I guess we can attribute that to a number of things. Kids have more and more things to do this day and age. They have a job, and they play baseball, and of course tennis is a big thing, and they have other activities. But I try to talk to them and convince them, say, we really only expect you to work out in basketball a couple of hours, a couple of days a week, which would constitute maybe 4 hours a week, and you take that over a 3-month period. That's really not a lot of hours to be putting into basketball. So no, we can't demand it, and we don't demand it. We certainly encourage it, and to be quite frank, we haven't been successful in convincing all of our kids that they need to work out some in the summer.
Let's turn to Keevin Biggs. Keevin, give us a little bit about the Young Lions. Played 9 games to this point, is that correct? And where do you stand?
Well, we won 3 ball games and lost 6, Bob. And I guess the 3 ball games that we have won have been on the road.
I thought you guys had a home floor advantage up there.
Well, that's been said. That's questionable. But I really think we played, some good basketball, and I think we've been in every game except possibly 2. And we don't play again until January the 6th. Mm-hmm. And I think we're just going to try to start a new season at that point and see if we can't become a little more competitive.
The primary function that Coach Butcher outlines for you as far as JV, is it can pinpoint it, or victories mean that much? Or?
Well, he never has really sat down and said...
win 15, huh?
Right. I think mainly what we're concerned with at the B team level is to ready the player to play at the varsity competition level. And, I don't think that always means necessarily that the person is going to play on a B team that's going to win, let's say 15-5 like we did last year. For example, we've got one sophomore this year that's splitting time, David Bowman. And although we haven't been so successful at the B team level, he's been able to come into the varsity game at various stages and give those kids an uplift. And I think he was, had a lot to do with the win at Forest Park when we were down 8 points with 2.5 minutes to go.
Mm-hmm.
So.
All right, we're going to get into your personnel a little later. Jack, we've up through this program had our coaches comment on the new timeout rule, and I recall when Al and I were at Bloomington North Thanksgiving Eve, I think the 2 timeout rule might have hurt the Lions there. I know you had to call one early in the second half that probably you would rather not have called at that time, or maybe you would have, but you would have still had some more left. And I was thinking this morning about the 2 kids are really in a learning experience, and they get a little nervous.
Neglected to point out that he's working with some very young kids. Most of the kids that he has to deal with are all freshmen, and it's extremely difficult to win a lot of basketball games at the B team level with an entire freshman group, going against sophomores and juniors in some cases. Now, oftentimes you are going to use 1 or 2 freshmen, but he's in a situation where he has to use primarily freshmen throughout the entire contest, and you're just not going to win a lot of basketball games under those conditions. He organized a great program this fall with the high school players acting as coaches, and I think it helped both groups, and he deserves a lot of credit for that. As far as the timeout rule, I do think it has taken a lot of it out of the coaching aspect of it. I've never used a lot of timeouts, on most occasions, most games. But thinking back to our sectional play last year, where we were just not into the contest mentally, I called 3 timeouts probably in the first quarter, or certainly in the first half. As you indicated in the Bloomington North game, it would have been very beneficial to us if we could have had another timeout or 2, particularly after Brian Rhodes fouled out, and I had to put Bowman in, or I felt I had to put Bowman in to help us do put on a little pressure. And Bowman didn't know exactly where he was supposed to be, and that especially that early in the season, and he had very little experience from a varsity standpoint, and we were still in the contest at that time, and he kind of got lost on defense. He didn't know where he was supposed to be up in the forward position or back in the center position, and so a timeout situation there would have been very beneficial, and as you indicated, for young kids in particular, and certain games where the kids are not mentally into it, sometimes you can get a timeout and get them organized. And probably you are correct that it's probably even more important and more valuable from a B team and a freshman level to instruct these individuals. Although, especially in the early part of the year, I think I do a lot of instructing by substituting the kids. Maybe they've made a mistake in the game defensively or offensively. We sometimes get a substitute in for them and try to do a little instruction at that time. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if the timeout rule isn't changed back to somewhat like it had been previously.
Jack, I think we could probably safely say that, at least from my observations of your ball clubs over the years, that acceptance of role playing has been highly important to the success of the Lagodi program. As I think you indicated a moment ago, that everybody's not going to be a scorer, but may be able to come off of the bench, and a teammate might be saddled with a foul problem or whatever, and a guy can go in and help and not hurt the ball club, and I think it's really been beneficial to the Lagodi Lions over the years.
Well, I think that's true, and we can take 3 individuals that we've been alternating at guard this year: Charlie Blackwell and Cam Ackerman and Wayne Ritchie. A lot of times one of those individuals would be very unhappy with that kind of situation, and maybe start crying around and not doing his job once he was in the contest. And those three kids have done a real fine job this year in accepting the position that they're in, and I think it's worked out very well, and probably better than I anticipated. As I say, we've been alternating them at the starting position, and they've been doing a real fine job, as you indicated, in playing their role. For example, Charlie Blackwell does some things better than Wayne Ritchie, and Wayne does some things better than Charlie, and Cam does some things better than either one of them, but not some things as well as maybe either one of them. And we've been able to get, I think, a lot of mileage out of each of their talents. Mm-hmm. And I think the kids are to be commended on accepting those roles.
Now, will an opponent, say, when you have a situation like that, and I know you start them at various times, as an opponent, what an opponent might be able or not be able to do, dictate who might get the starting role on that particular evening?
Well, I could visualize a situation where that would be the case, but that hasn't been much of a prerequisite or criteria this year for the way that we play them.
All right, we're going to get into our coaches' rosters here and let them tell about the young men that are playing on their various varsity and B teams, and we'll do that right after we take time for these three messages.
Here's a Christmas gift list of suggestions for those of you who have...
Back to Bob Simmers.
All right, let's go to Keevin Biggs for the rundown on his personnel. Keevin?
Okay. Before I get into that, Bob, I've always got people asking me, what does Jack do to win? Mm-hmm. So maybe I could say a couple of things here before I start that.
Don't give away any secrets.
All right, I'll try not to.
It's called job security. Go ahead, Keevin.
Okay. One thing, he talked a little bit about motivation, and I think he is a good motivator when the kids need to be motivated. But a lot of times your coaches that are motivationalists aren't X and O people either. And Jack, if anybody's watched him, they know he likes his X's and O's down there on the bench as well. So he does a little bit of both, when the occasion calls for it. We put out a little booklet last year, a handbook for Lagodi basketball, and we started that off with a quote by Mr. Butcher, something about rising to the occasion. And he said something like, over the past quarter of a century, whenever Lagodi basketball required someone to fit in a particular situation or fulfill a particular role, that there was always someone that did rise to the occasion. And I think he's very good at getting those people to perform their best when they need to perform their best. He makes the statement sometimes that little things win ball games. I think he's very adept at seeing little things that perhaps the average coach wouldn't see on the floor and making an adjustment. And I think that has helped him win a lot of ball games. Plus, he doesn't necessarily coach the way now that he did 10 years ago. Now, I'm not saying that he has changed everything, but I think he keeps up with the changes in the game, plus, the old standbys as well. Mm-hmm. So that's the way I see him as being a successful person in coaching.
Very interesting. Okay.
Okay, to the junior varsity then. We've got 4 sophomores that we're using. I mentioned David Bowman a few moments ago. He's playing 2 quarters on the B team, and we're saving him 2 for the varsity. And he's doing a real fine job in both places. I think sometimes it's kind of tough on the B team when if we get behind, let's say, the first half, and he comes in and tries to fulfill the role of team leader and get us going again. But he's done a fine job this year, and I'm proud of him. The other 3 sophomores, one is Mike Hurt. He's kind of our point guard, I guess. He does a fine job. Sean Howe does a good job. Perhaps both of these guys are lacking a little bit in experience, and I think time will perhaps help them to be able to move into the role of varsity players later on. We also have a sophomore by the name of Steve Groves that moved in from Penn High School this year, and right now he's doing a job fulfilling a substitute role on the B team because he has never played before, but his enthusiasm for the game is very apparent, and he helps us quite a bit there. freshmen, I'm holding 5 out that aren't even playing freshman basketball this year, except we're going to try to save them enough quarters they can play in the Blue Chip Conference tourney. They are Pat Wagner, Todd Titzer, David Arvin, Tony Nate, and Scott Walker. And those guys, they're working very hard in practice, trying to learn as much as they possibly can. I think they have good attitudes, and I think within the next couple of years, you'll be hearing about them at Lagodi as well. Have several freshman ball players that are dressing on the B team, and at different times during the year they've come in and performed very admirably in a particular situation. And I'll just go through the list of those guys. Mike Jones, T.J. Williams, Marty Hembry, Bart Spencer, Andy Walker. And then we have 4 people that we have sharing one shirt at different ball games, and they are Kevin Colvin, Troy Hembry, Ronnie Sheets, and Eric Lundy. And that pretty well takes care of my roster.
All right, Jack?
Well, of course, most people know our only returning starter from last year's team was Kelly Hunt. Kelly's about a 6'2" junior that perhaps if you could say one thing about Kelly, it's consistency. He is an all-around basketball player. He can play inside, he can play outside, shoots well from the outside, and can make the power move and play the inside game. He is our leading scorer, but our team is not one that anyone is going to shoot a lot, and therefore will not score a lot. And Kelly's shooting about maybe 45% from the field, and probably close to 80 or so from the free throw line. We've been doing an exceptionally good job at that. They're our leading rebounder as well. Another junior is Brian Rhodes, and Brian, I was very impressed with him in practice, preseason, but as we indicated, he hasn't had any varsity experience, or he didn't have any varsity experience last year, and he was playing with, I think, under nervous energy, or with nervous energy in the early part of the season, and has gradually been playing more under control, and in the South Knox game he just played exceptionally well. I think maybe shot 75, maybe 60-70% from the field, and hit his free throws, and made some real key plays for us, and he's playing very well for us now. Senior guard Charlie Blackwell, as I indicated, he starts some of the ball games, always plays a great deal throughout the game, and Charlie is really a kid that will give you 100%. He's going to come off the floor with a lot of floor burns, and he's going to be the first one that's going to have to go to the bench for a towel, but to wipe the perspiration off. Charlie's not a great shooter, or he hasn't been up to this point in time. He's had trouble with his free throws, but at the same time he's been able to hit some key buckets for us and hit some key free throws for us throughout the year. Wayne Ritchie is another senior guard, and Wayne is not super quick, but he's been able to get some steals for us and get us out on a fast break at various times throughout the season. He hits his free throws well, and he's hit some key baskets for us and plays very good defense, as does Charlie. Another sophomore is Robbie Blackwell, and Robbie is, he's our center, about 6'3", 6'4" maybe, and he oftentimes plays like a sophomore and sometimes plays like a freshman, but has at various times this year played like a junior, and I think that's a key for a young player such as Robbie to play a little better than his maybe his age indicates, and we've been fortunate at Lagodi over the years that when we have to play young people that they play as not sophomores or freshmen but juniors and seniors, and Robbie's had trouble at times this year from the foul standpoint, but I think we can understand that he is only a sophomore, and really has probably played as well or better than we have a right to expect this early in the season, and as being only a sophomore. And I think he is one of the keys as to whether or not we're going to continue to be successful. He needs to play the game with more intensity. He needs to work harder in practice, and he's probably going to do that during the holidays. And another individual that's been playing a lot and doing a fine job for us is Cam Ackerman. He's a junior guard. Started off and on with Charlie and Wayne, and here again, he only got one field goal the other night against South Knox, but hit something like 7 out of 8 from the free throw line. Has done an exceptional job in running our delay game. Probably does a better job running the delay game than any of our guards in the last couple of years. Does a good job penetrating and feeding the ball off, and now is hitting his free throws very well. Another sophomore is Robert Berry, and he's about 6'2", and I really had to hope that Robert would have gotten into more ball games and had more playing time than he has. I would like to get him down in the B team and get some playing experience, but you know I do have a problem with numbers, and we do need him up on the varsity. I think probably his biggest problem right now is getting in the ball game and getting relaxed and doing the things that he knows he's supposed to do it at a given situation. And you know, we can take him out and talk to him, and he knows immediately what he didn't do. And you know, if we could get him some more playing time and get him to go to where he's supposed to be at a given time, why hopefully we'll be able to play him a little more. Another sophomore that Keevin alluded to is Dave Bowman, and Dave's not a real big kid, but has done a fine job for Keevin on the B team, and especially in the Forest Park game, came in and did the job that needed to be done. He got a key offensive rebound, put it back in, made a three-point play, and hit a couple additional free throws. In the Bar Reeve game, I believe, he had to go in and convert a couple of free throws, which he did, and you know, you've got to respect a kid that can come off the bench with such limited playing time and do that kind of job for you. A couple of other kids we have on the varsity roster is Sean Howe and Mike Hurt, both sophomores, and play exclusively on the B team, as Keevin needs all the upperclassmen he can get.
Upperclassmen.
A couple of other guys that I guess we ought to mention. Our student manager, who do a real fine job for us, is Joe Potts, John G., and John Stuckey.
All right. Okay. We do want to thank the anonymous writer from Crawford County who sent me a schedule of the Crawford County Wolfpack, and we did report their score Friday. Sorry it had to be on the losing end to West Washington there by 3 points, but we do appreciate it. And also, in regards to the person who called last week wanting to know where the little brown jug was located, and of course that was the trophy, I guess you would call it, symbolic of supremacy on the basketball floor between Jasper and Huntingburg is when it started. In fact, it started in 1934 with Jasper winning the first two games 20-18 and 29-19, and in 35 Huntingburg came back with two victories, 30-28 and 33-26. Southridge does have that. Talked with Principal Ray Reisner over there this past week, and he has already contacted Don Noblet of the IHSA, and also Ray is on that body too. And there is some movement to that ball games coming up this next week. But we do have a few, and on Tuesday night it's going to be Memorial playing at Bosse. I like the Bosse Bulldogs. It's Princeton at Mater Dei. If anyone disagrees, just chime right in. It's Princeton at Mater Dei, and I'll pick Jim Jones's Tigers to rebound. Washington at Mount Vernon. I'm going to take Mount Vernon at Mount Vernon. Tell City at Hancock County, Kentucky. I'll take Tell City.
Hancock.
You're taking Hancock, Al. Paoli at Shoals. I'm gonna take Stan Mosier at home. I know Paoli's having its problems, but Shoals may get the job done. I'm going to take the Jug Rocks.
Yeah, go Paoli.
All right, Perry Central at Valley. I'll take the Hawks.
I'll go with Perry Central.
Okay. Friday games, we have 2. Vincennes Lincoln at home against Reveille. And I think Lincoln will rebound from that loss to Gibson Southern. Heritage Hills at Bar Reeve.
I'll take Bar Reeve based on the fact that it's at Bar Reeve.
What are you trying to say? Is he going to have the D House boys up there refereeing that game? Heritage Hills at Bar Reeve. I'll go along with Bar Reeve.
Let's make it unanimous.
All right. Keevan's going with Bar Reeve also. Don't wave the red flag there in front of Toad Rank. He may be out to get you in the sectional, Jack.
Who's Joe?
What's a Toad Rank?
What's a Toad Rank?
What's a Toad Rank? I don't know. Well, we want to thank Jack Butcher and Keevin Biggs for being our guests here this afternoon. Continued success, gentlemen, throughout the rest of the season. Now, as far as the next couple of weeks, of course, we're going to take a hiatus because of the Christmas and New Year's days being on Sunday. And when we come back on January the 8th, our guest is going to be Gary Duncan of the Southridge Raiders. For Al Pillsbury, I'm Bob Simmers, bidding you a very pleasant good day and a very happy holiday season.